When Frank Lampard was appointed as Chelsea manager back at the beginning of last season, it felt like Chelsea were ready to settle down with someone they loved. The greatest player in the history of the Blues was finally in charge, and Chelsea fans all across the globe started to dream of what would be possible. Last season didn't set the world alight, however, given the rather unexperienced squad, a fourth place finish was deemed a success, and so Abramovich rewarded Lampard with a blank cheque and the ability to sign whoever he wanted. And so Frank brought in some of the biggest names in European football. And things seemed to be going so well at the start of the season. Chelsea were on a good run of form and were starting to be considered as serious title contenders. However, their abysmal form over December and January was enough for the ruthless Abramovich to cut ties with Frank, and be replaced almost immediately by the German tactician Thomas Tuchel. The former Mainz, Borussia Dortmund and PSG manager is well known for the tactical changes and high energy he brings into his clubs. And while he may not have been PSG's favourite manager of all time, he definitely had a lot of success in his 2-year tenure, with a highlight being the Champions League final back in August of last year. With the Blues, Tuchel will have a lot of work to do and faces a monumental challenge if he's to get them back into Champions League qualification. He has proven to be a very flexible manager and will adapt his play style to the players he has at his disposal. At Mainz, the most common formations he'd play were a 4-1-3-2 or a 4-3-1-2. While at Borussia Dortmund, he switched constantly between a 3-4-3, a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-1-4-1. At PSG, he seemed rather set on the 4-3-3, but sometimes he'd adapt a more high-pressing 4-2-2-2. Therefore, Tuchel could walk into any team and identify their strengths and weaknesses, before choosing a system to build around. It's impossible, however, to pin him down to one specific formation, given that in his teams, the players will be constantly shifting to adapt to the situation. Moving on, let's see what this could mean for Chelsea. If we look at the players Chelsea has at their disposal, chances are Tuchel will start with 4 at the back. While Chelsea's defenders are all pretty physical, they're not necessarily the most technically gifted centre-backs, and their ball playing has caused some issues this season. For this reason, I think he will opt for 2 centre-backs and choose an extra man in his midfield. So far this season, Chelsea's strongest back 4 have been Ben Chilwell, Zuma, Silva and Reece James. Tuchel will have a head start with Thiago Silva, given their time together at PSG. And Chilwell and James will likely be favoured over Emerson and Azpilicueta, given the high work rate he demands by his fullbacks within his tactics. The position between Zuma and Rudiger is a tricky one. With rumours of Tuchel wanting to sign Rudiger when he was at PSG, there is a high chance that the German centre-back will be paired up with Silva, and in his first game in charge this was already the case. Kurt Zuma may lack the passing ability that Tuchel likes to have in his centre-backs, and for this reason will probably feature less than when Lampard was in charge. One of Thomas Tuchel's most important tactical innovations as a manager has been his use of central midfielders to play out from the back. Tuchel's playmakers during build-up are not the centre-backs, but instead the central midfielders. With Dortmund, Tuchel used the likes of Gundogan, Castro or Guerreiro to drop in on the right or left, creating a triangular shape to play out. Defensive midfielder Weigl would then create an option at the top of the diamond, with the goalkeeper as another backwards option if needed. PSG did exactly the same thing with Paredes or Verratti, dropping into the backline and the left half space as Marquinhos held his central position. It's a method of quickly gaining an overload in possession of the ball, disrupting the opposition's press and ensuring the opposition's number 10 can't have much success if they stick strictly to covering the defensive midfielder. For example, teams playing with a front 2 or in a 4-2-3-1 may look to screen passes into the midfield, but this becomes quite difficult should those players move out of position into wide areas. By doing so, a variety of things can happen, including corridors opening up in central channels for other attackers to drop in and exploit. In his first game in charge against Wolves, he opted for this 4-2-3-1 formation, and we could already see some of his tactics coming into play, with Kovacic dropping deep near the centre-backs and Jorginho at the top of the diamond. With Chelsea, the players at his disposal in midfield are Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic, Mount, Havertz and Gilmour. Firstly, while Kante is arguably one of the best defensive mids in the world, Tuchel has tended to move away from very defensive-minded midfielders, and chances are Jorginho will likely start as the holding mid, given his playstyle and constant rotating of the ball. However, Tuchel may aim for his passes to be a bit more line-breaking, as Jorginho has a tendency to play it safe. Mason Mount has arguably been Chelsea's best player this season, and at times has looked like the only player with any desire to win the ball. However, under new management everything can change, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tuchel opted for bigger names leading the midfield, with Kovacic and Havertz arguably being the best bet. The appointment of Tuchel was almost certainly done to get the most out of Havertz and Werner, who have not lived up to the price tag for the time being. For this reason, Havertz is an almost certain guarantee in the midfield, and Tuchel may know how to get the most out of the German international. Kovacic, on the other hand, is more comfortable dropping deeper alongside the defensive mid, and will likely be used as a shuttle between the midfield lines. Chelsea's struggles in attack are largely to blame for Lampard's time at Chelsea being cut short, with lots of big names but with little tactical implementation to get the most out of them. At his disposal, Tuchel will have Pulisic, Werner, Giroud, Abraham, Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi. On current form, Tammy Abraham would seem like Chelsea's best bet going forward. However, no doubt Tuchel will opt to get the most out of Timo Werner and will almost certainly be leading the line for Chelsea. Pulisic will also be the likely pick on the left wing, given how he impressed Tuchel at his time in Dortmund. He has looked dangerous at times this season, but has largely found himself isolated on the left wing and has struggled to get going this campaign. The attacking fullbacks used by Tuchel will mean Pulisic will be able to play more centrally in the half spaces, and will try and expose defences when drifting inside, similarly to how Neymar or Mbappe were utilised in his time at PSG. Finally, the right wing will likely be filled by Hakim Ziyech. Of Chelsea's new signings, he has definitely been their most threatening on the attack, and his sweeping crosses onto the back post will almost certainly be a tactic Tuchel will try and implement into his team, and it's something we've already seen in their first game against Wolves, where Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi seem to have a very loose role, and deliver long dangerous crosses onto the back post. I think the 4-3-3 will be the most common formation played by Tuchel at Chelsea, but against stronger oppositions, the 4-2-3-1 may also come into play, with Jorginho being paired up with the more defensive-minded Kante, and Kovacic or Mount playing alongside Havertz. Now we've established how Tuchel is likely to line up, let's take a look at some of the main tactics in his playstyle. Tuchel's teams are renowned for their aggressive and high-energy football. When on the ball, his teams will attempt to build up through the middle from the back line, and the attacking fullbacks will push high up the pitch and stretch the opposition. He demands a lot from his fullbacks, and Reece James and Ben Chilwell will be required to support attacks and defence constantly. Having the fullbacks push up also allows the front three to play in a more narrow triangular shape, which in turn opens up many passing lanes to exploit. When off the ball, Tuchel's teams are instructed to press from the front, and demands his players to press down the opposition as fast as possible. He will often rely on the front two to press the back line, given that having two forwards will mean one player is immediately ready to press the centre-backs. The wingers will usually shift inside and block any passing lanes into the middle, and the fullbacks are immediately high up the pitch, pressing the opposition fullbacks or wide players. Although Lampard's sacking came as a surprise to many people, Chelsea have found themselves an excellent manager in Thomas Tuchel, proven to be able to get the most out of his players. His style is exciting to watch, and Chelsea are definitely going to have a lot more dynamism to them going forward. Where do you see Chelsea finishing the current season under Tuchel, and what do you think his preferred starting 11 will look like? Please leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching.